Consensus. Agree to disagree. Groupthink. No one is required to agree with anyone else. However, when we're looking at what is accurate and what isn't, seeing who believes what is often a good way to see if something is a reasonable claim. But that's tricky in itself, because sometimes things are cutting edge and new, and not many other sources would agree with it. We can keep an open mind and be wary of folks who make claims they can't support. Let's consider our scenario. We can try a quick Google search for baking soda and cancer and treatment. We'll use click restraint to see what some of the sources we recognize or look initially trustworthy say about the topic. The first one I see is Penn Medicine. I recognize that Penn is short for University of Pennsylvania. Let's check that one out first. A quick perusal of the website shows it's from Penn Medicine News. There is an About Me section at the bottom which says Penn Medicine is one of the world's leading academic medical centers, dedicated to the related missions of medical education, biomedical research, excellence in patient care, and community service. But remember, we don't believe what the source themselves says about themselves. We can use lateral reading to double check what they claim is accurate. I can open a new tab and search Penn Medicine to see what other sources say. It takes me to the second page of results to find something independent, and what I see is the Wikipedia article, so I check that out. There I see Penn Medicine is described as a clinical and research entity of the University of Pennsylvania. And then I see that, according to an article cited from U.S. News and World Reports, in 2020, University of Pennsylvania Penn Presbyterian was ranked as the 15th best hospital in the United States by the U.S. News and World Report. So I'll go back to my previous tab and see what they have to say. The study did not show that baking soda cures cancers, but it does have interesting results. According to the source, looking at tumors that had been grafted into mice, the researchers observed a lack of mTOR activity, a rest period in which tumors seemed to become drug resistant, in places in which no oxygen was present. But tumors taken from mice that had been given baking soda in their drinking water light up with mTOR activity. It's possible that if baking soda can be used to reawaken such dormant cells, tumors might become far more sensitive to therapy. Baking soda has been reported in the past to enhance cancer immunotherapy, but the mechanism underlying that effect was unclear. So baking soda may help make already existing cancer treatment more effective by reducing acidity. That's honestly really cool, and it would be great if it helped cancer patients. But it doesn't support the claim that baking soda in itself would cure cancer or treat cancer. So the claims made by Clarabelle and Anya Vine aren't supported by this piece of information. Though there is an inkling of truth there, baking soda could help chemotherapy drugs work better. Let's see what another source says. This time, I clicked on a link to the National Institute of Health. It's an official government website, but we are definitely going to use some lateral reading to double check what other sources say about it. When I search for the National Institute of Health, I see lots of official or government websites that discuss the institution, but I don't want to hear more about what the government says about it. I'd like to see from another source. On the third page, I see a link to Britannica, which is an online encyclopedia, which I recognize. So I decided to check that out. What Britannica says is, it is the largest single supporter of biomedical research in the country and also provides training for health researchers and disseminates medical information. So they support research and disseminate it. That sounds like a decent place to take a look for information. The source itself is titled, Does Baking Soda Function as a Magic Bullet for Patients with Cancer? A mini review. In this article, there is an entire section called Sodium Bicarbonate Kills Cancer Cells. I head there to review that. From what I can tell from the article, sometimes baking soda can help treat cancer, meaning that the cancer doesn't spread and the body's natural T cells can fight the tumor. They talk about how baking soda changes the acidic environment. From what I can tell from the article, sometimes baking soda can help treat cancer, meaning that the cancer doesn't spread and the body's natural T cells can fight the tumor. They talk about how baking soda changes the acidic environment around the tumor, so it does sound similar to that other source we looked at. But this article also says that it seems to only work on very specific cancer lines that weren't very aggressive, and that when they gave more aggressive cancers to the mice and treated them with only baking soda, they quickly died. The article says, basically, that sodium bicarbonate could be used as an adjuvant therapy to enhance the efficacy of conventional treatments, but we need to study it more to know exactly how and when to use it. When I think back to the comments section from that social media post in our scenario, what I'm thinking is that both sides are essentially wrong. Currently, baking soda doesn't seem like a great way to treat cancer, or at least not all cancer, and it doesn't seem very effective compared to conventional treatment. The likelihood that drinking baking soda, lemon, and or castor oil would cure someone's cancer is extremely low. However, there is something here. It looks like research does show that taking baking soda while using chemotherapy drugs could help them work better. There seems to be a lot to learn about how to maximize that effect, but the concept isn't as absurd as some of the comments made it out to be. And there doesn't appear to be any conspiracy out there to discredit these claims, which is a common side claim made by many of baking soda's proponents. In fact, researchers are currently working to see if, when, and how baking soda could be used to treat cancer. When we look at what other sources say about a topic, we get the opportunity to see outside of one or two perspectives, but instead we may see the nuance of a topic come into focus.